Welcome to Pashua's Moment with Pastor Charles Kiyaga.
Yes, praise the Lord, brethren. We are back again on our program, the Pashua's Moment, and back again on our message, the message of seeking hard after God. We have to be consistent with the message, and we have to be speaking one language, and that one language is the seeking of God. Okay? So, I encourage us to be one-minded, to be purposed, and nothing else but to purpose with our hearts on this one thing, seeking God. It will never be withheld from us. Okay? And I want us to continue. We go to Genesis chapter 11. Now we are going to read verses 7. Okay? Verses 7. Come, let us go down, and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. Come, let us go down and confuse their language, that they do not understand one another. Okay? Why did God say, let us go down and confuse their language, that they may not know, they may not understand one another? It was because the purpose for which they were building this tower was the wrong purpose. Instead of building their hearts towards God, they decided to build a tower to reach God. Instead of drawing closer to God, to know Him, they instead said, let us make a name for ourselves. Always when we do things that are centered on us, they will not go very far. They will not go very far. Even in your church, if everything is centered on you, centered on your vision as a ministry, we are going to do this, build schools, do this, but God is not in the picture, it will not go very far. And you will be able to see confusion coming. People failing to understand each other. And eventually, your great projects are scattered. There are many of us who, in the name of serving God, we are just making our own empires. God is not in the picture. We are making a name for ourselves. We are building a city for ourselves. God is not in the picture. What heaven will do is to come down and confuse. And then you see confusion. We have seen great ministries going into a confusion where things were astronomically going very well. But within no time, confusion comes. And people don't understand each other. And all of a sudden, everything stagnates. It is because we have lost the focus. If we do anything in the name of God, but God is left out of the picture, be assured that confusion will come. These people were building a tower to reach God and to make a name for themselves. Instead of building their hearts, they were building towers. Many of us, even as ministers, instead of building hearts of people towards God, we are building them towards building our own empires. We focus so much on people giving to the work of God, not as much as we focus on building their hearts towards God. That way, you see a drifting where God gets out of focus, and it is about our achievements. As I told you before, God does not dwell in buildings. God does not dwell in cities. It's not bad to build good buildings. It's not bad to build astronomical architecture buildings for worship, but as long as we do not neglect building the hearts towards God. The only danger is when there is overemphasis on building the city, on building the tower, and making a name for ourselves at the expense of connecting ourselves to God. That's where it goes all wrong. And that is how great ministries have eventually turned out and eventually gotten scattered. Because they began well, like it is on God, and eventually the drifting begins. And now it becomes the human interest takes a center stage. And people are making a name. People are making a tower. Instead of reaching God the right way, we want to reach Him otherwise. That way, confusion will come. If we want to avoid confusion and stagnation in our ministry, let us build the hearts of people towards God. And eventually, these other buildings, these other structures, these other cities we are building will continually be blessed. And God will continually grace our projects to continue to grow strong. But as long as we lose focus of God, confusion will come. So God said, let us go down and confuse them, that they may not speak one language. We have seen that happen, that people lose the language, and eventually the great cities, the great temples, the great ministries start stagnating. Before we realize, they are scattered. But the only danger was we lost focus of God. Instead of building the hearts, we instead build buildings, and we forgot the hearts. God bless you. We begin from there tomorrow.
Eyo yibadde Pursuers Moment ng'ekutuusiddwako essomero lya Pursuers Junior School erisangibwa mu Butambala ku kkubo lya Mpigi Gombe. Kati wulira enkizo eriwo singa otwala omwana wo ku Pursuers Junior School. Interviews za bwereere. Essomero liyimiridde ku musingi ogutya Katonda ate ng'omwana agonjulwa bakugu. Tutumbula ebitone eby'enjawulo mu mwana. Tulina amazzi amayonjo ku ssomero ate ng'omwana wasomera ne weyeebaka abanga mukungu. Endya y'abayizi nnungi byansusso anti emmere tugirimira nga ne faamu y'ente weeri ku ssomero. Tulina emmotoka ezitambuza abaana. Pursuers Junior School e Butambala tusomesa abaana okuva mu baby class okutuuka ku kibiina ekyomusanvu. Mudene boarding okumanya ebisingawo 0772 41 98 4 ne 0702 36 41 64. Pursuers Junior School Butambala, in pursuit of knowledge.